Ladies and gentlemen, shalom to everybody in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Well, recently, Errol Musk did an interview which sparked a lot of outrage on CNN, and people are reacting to it. This man have the ultimate colonizer mindset. He literally think the world cannot evolve unless white people are in it. I mean, you know, despite what y'all believe, we had a life before y'all showed up. You tried that narrative that we had no history. There's no such thing as living on this planet and having no history. That right there tells me you're stupid if you think someone believes that. How do you exist on the earth? And no less, we're the first ones to be here. So if we're the first ones here, how do we have no history? No, see, you mofos that showed up last, you're the ones with no history. That's why you're always trying to hijack everybody else's. Number two, y'all are the only group of people that try to make others believe you've been here a lot longer than you actually have been. You haven't been here that long, but you try to make it seem like you have been here a long time. In fact, y'all, the majority of these people you're looking at, they've only existed for the last few hundred years. Especially when you look at Mexicans and Puerto Ricans and you motherfuckers weren't even around thousands of years ago. All right, you only came in existence hundreds of years ago. So all of you are pretty modern. You're not somebody that got longevity on the earth. None of you are. And it just makes me laugh because every single one of these Gentile groups think they are of something greater than us, and they're not. And it's just amazing. It's like the animals have taken over the planet, and the animals think they're better than the actual humans. Crazy, isn't it? But we're going to listen to what he has to say. Elon, look at your father, Errol. This is what you're going to look like in the next 5 years. Y'all know you. Yeah, yeah. Y'all age like y'all age worse than a banana. I think bananas age better. You gonna look like your daddy in the next 2 years. So anyway, y'all, he sounds just like a typical South African. And now you can understand why Elon slapped his chest and did that Nazi salute after listening to your dad. I know where you got that from, Elon. I now understand where that all comes from. You probably been doing that since you were a child. That didn't just start in adulthood. He was probably doing that mess in South Africa as a child, y'all. You know? But yeah, none of these people have been around that long, y'all. If you really study the history, they are a mixture of things. And if you are a mixture of things, that means you just been around for a few hundreds of years. You haven't been around thousands of years, right? They haven't been around thousands of years. So let's get started. But y'all, I hope you have your bottle of Tums next to you because this sucker is stomach curdling for real. It really is. This man think he's all that and a bag of chips like the Most High broke the mold after they made people like him. I don't think so. Oh, and by the way, NASA had a press conference today on 3i Atlas. And, you don't even have to waste your time watching it because they did exactly what I said they would do. They spent the entire time saying it's nothing but a comet. Okay, so a comet that changed colors, a comet that accelerates and slows down. They said the thing is rotating now. What comet do you have you ever seen and it rotates? It got brighter when it got near the sun. It didn't break apart. Okay? I mean, but according to them, Three Eye Atlas is nothing but a just a comet. That's it. It's nothing else. Now, didn't they said it had jets and everything? No. And what about the objects that were accompanying it? Those are all um so when comets come through, they also have other objects with them whizzing right along with them. So, NASA is doing what I expect. I told everybody in my household, I said, all they're going to do is get on there and tell everybody it's nothing but a comet, despite the fact that we have seen it change from green to blue, get brighter. They said sometimes it got larger and then sometimes it wasn't. And I said, no comet does all of that. But, let them stay on their path. I wouldn't even be surprised if Donald Trump told them to do this. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, just tell the American public it's a comet. So, I'm not going to show it because they are doing the typical thing I knew they would do. I knew it. I called this last night when I was just talking in general around my house. So it is what it is. So, y'all, let's get started with this interview. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Okay. Thank you.
DNA. This week, a wave of South African officials are publicly rebuking President Trump's claims of a genocide against white Afrikaners in their country. That's after Trump recently announced that no U.S. officials were going to the G20 summit in Johannesburg this month, citing the ongoing human rights abuses, as he put it in this social post, which the South African government has denied. CNN's Dunia Solon traveled to South Africa to investigate these claims for the latest episode of CNN's The Whole Story, where he spoke to Errol Musk, who is Elon Musk's father.
The big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? Do you want to go back to the jungle, or?
If the US becomes a minority white country, yes. So there's Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under?
Yeah, goes under that.
Seriously.
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black
No,
for decades.
how do you oppress? We gave them work, we fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression, that's feeding them. Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only sprout at 800 and come 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
What he's trying to say, y'all, he's trying to make them white saviors over us. They're a white savior. So we weren't nobody over there, all right, was oppressed because white people fed them. So Well, guess what? They fed the slaves too, but them damn slaves were oppressed, okay? Just because you gave somebody food, it don't mean that they are not oppressed. But this is what this man is saying. He fed you. He fed you. So if he fed those melanated ones over there, then there was no oppression. That's what he said. Boy, you can't. You just can't. Let's go on.
Apartheid.
Well, we never saw the suppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, but because you're white, right?
Whew, Dodie Sullivan. Whoa. That was quite an interview.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kaylin, doing this quite some time, talking to people who sort of, I mean, Errol Musk, a bit like his son, sort of hangs out in those sort of darker corners of the internet, I guess, where a lot of these things are discussed. We're used to hearing a lot of this stuff in sort of coded language or dog whistles, but that was pretty direct there. And I mean, we should obviously state for the record, and I think people will see in our show on Sunday night, that there is major problems in South Africa. Crime is a massive problem in South Africa, but the way that it's been framed as something that is exclusively targeting white people or that it is in any way based in race is just totally bogus. And I'll just make the point, obviously, on apartheid, anybody with any understanding of history knows how brutal that system was, that only ended 30 years ago. And even to this day, you know, the white South Africans make up 7% of the population there, but they own 75% of the land. That's not to say there isn't crime and awful things happening to some white people, of course. But the idea that whites are being persecuted in a way that blacks and others are suffering is really bogus.
Well, and honestly, this was this huge moment in the Oval Office earlier this year. And when you were there, you talked to South Africa's foreign minister about how the president has been echoing these claims of a white genocide. And I wonder what the foreign minister had to say about that.
Yeah, and of course, these false claims of white genocide and white persecution is the reason that Trump is not sending anyone from the government to the G20 in South Africa next week. And yes, as you mentioned, this is what the foreign minister had to say when we asked him about it. So we're about to go meet South Africa's foreign minister, who was sitting in the Oval Office for that infamous meeting with Trump.
It was excruciating difficult. That is a fearmonger to pursue the agenda of white supremacy.
You think Trump is pursuing a white supremacist agenda?
Yes, I think so. With the program to take the white Afrikaners from South Africa, it's a clear program to back up the issue of white supremacy. And when you look at the Geneva Convention, they don't fit the definition of a refugee.
Yes, and nobody really mincing their words when it comes to this. I will just say the White House, in response to this, said they disputed what Minister Lamola said there, and they said that President Trump is approaching the refugee issue with a, quote, humanitarian heart. Of course, the U.S. refugee program next year is basically being limited to only white South Africans, which has sort of been widely condemned around the world.
Yeah, Joni, it's obviously something to keep our eye on. And thank you for joining us tonight. For everyone else who want to see the rest of Doni's story, this trip in South Africa, you can watch From This Information, White Genocide. It is for the whole story of Anderson Cooper, and it airs this Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on CNN, and also the next day on the CNN app. Don't miss it. Up next.
The big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle, or?
If the US becomes a minority white country,
Yes.
so there's Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then, you know, it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under.
Yeah, it goes under there.
Seriously.
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects the European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them.
Did you hear what he said? So what he's saying is the best civilization is European civilization. We brought European uh culture here. Like that is the best thing cuz they talk like that here, y'all. If you really listen to the ones around us, they talk like that here, like that is the best culture to have is European. And that's a load of BS. You know, just because you learn something, it don't mean you can't unlearn it. That is not the best culture. In fact, like I said, that culture is new. It has no longevity on the planet. All right. And don't let me get into the European nations that have fallen already, like Italy, Greece, you know. Come on, look at France. France is falling apart. That's right there should tell you using European culture is garbage. Their culture is garbage. That's why it's failing all over the world. But that's what he wants you to believe. Well, we brought European culture here. Like that, look, that's a bunch of nothing. You brought nothing there. You brought nothing of value to anyone other than the 7% white people. That's all. That European culture is bullshit. That's what it is. It's bullshit. They just convince the world that it's something big when it's nothing. It's a bunch of nothing. All right, let's go on.
Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, but because you're white. The big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle, or?
If the US becomes a minority white country,
Yes.
so there's Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under?
Yeah, it goes under there.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black people.
No.
For decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them. Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population,
We get duped by these people. We get duped by these people, man. I'm serious. Oh, man. If this man said one thing that made common sense, I would be shocked. He's just babbling and rumbling. He ain't said nothing that makes sense. The only thing he's emphasizing is European culture. That's a big deal. That's what we brought here. I don't see how that benefited South Africa. I don't see how it benefited America. I don't see that how that benefited anywhere. And all the places that they're running, look, even the UK is declining now. Go look at the data on the UK. The UK is also in decline, just like America is in decline. Every place that they're running is literally in decline, y'all. Every single location these folks are running is in decline. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you the damn truth. So if European culture was all that, then why is it failing everywhere? And if you go back and look at their history, they have not ran a society that went past a few hundred years. To this very day, they can't even match the Moors. Okay, they can't even match the Moors. But that's what he think that's a big deal that they brought European culture is some big deal. Yeah, the UK is in mad decline, y'all. It's bad over there too. I mean, all of these European nations are in decline. Every one. So that you didn't bring a gift to the world. I'm sorry. You may think you did, but you didn't. Let's go on.
Population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
CNN interview is blowing up online because Elon Musk's father, Errol Musk, just said the U.S. will go down once white Americans become a minority. And then he added,
What is it? Do you want to go back to the jungle? Or?
yeah, that's where the conversation went. The clip comes from CNN's upcoming special, Misinfo Nation, White Genocide. Correspondent Donnie O'Sullivan tells Errol the next 20 years, white Americans may no longer be the majority. Errol doesn't hesitate. He calls it a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology? Or...
Then Errol Musk pushes even further, asking why America will want to go back to the jungle. Donnie Stun reminds him that South Africa's white minority historically oppressed millions of black people under apartheid.
And oppressed millions of black
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them.
When Donnie calls that out, Errol says he never saw any oppression, and Donnie hit him with the obvious.
Oh, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
This interview drops while Trump and Musk continue promoting claims that white South African farmers are victims of genocide, a claim South African officials call completely false. Whether you agree or not, this interview exposes exactly how racial fear, misinformation, and nostalgia for old power structures get packaged as warnings. And that's the part that gets people really debating. Not just what he said, but why so many people believe it.
Did you motherfuckers hear what Elon Musk's father said on CNN?
You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects the European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black people
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
So now you can understand where his hate for black people come from. Like father, like son. The fact that he went on CNN and said that and act like nothing was wrong. That's probably how most of you motherfuckers from that age group actually feel. People like this is the reason why racism still exists. It's not just in this country. It's all around the world. Birds of a feather flock together. Why you think Elon and Trump was so cool? For people to still think like this in this day and age is insane.
Elon Musk's racist daddy said what?
The big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? Do you want to go back to the jungle, or?
Let's
last time I checked, the majority of inventions that happened here in America came from black people. What the fuck is this guy talking about? What we didn't have was patents. That's what we didn't have. But he continues.
If it goes under...
Yes, it goes under there.
Seriously.
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black people
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them.
You fed them. You fed them. They weren't eating before you colonizers came to Africa. What were they eating then? This is insane.
You know, enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
Of course you didn't see the oppression, because you're a thief. You and your thieving family went to South Africa and took over emerald mines. You made your money off the backs of black people in South Africa. You motherfucking turducken. And if you are anything of what Elon Musk is going to look like when he gets to your age, all that hate is just melting his face. Ew, racism is a hell of a drug. No wonder why your raggedy son is out here doing Yahtzee salutes. You got it from your disgusting ass grandfather too, who thought that South Africa was going to be the new white Mecca. Guess what? It's not, because you guys don't seem to understand you are a genetic mutation. Y'all come from black people. We not going nowhere. And when you mix with us, you look more like us than you look like what you're looking right now, because that's what happens when you have dominant genes. Wow. God, that was disgusting. Now I need to claw out my eyeballs and hope I never see your raggedy face again. Ugh.
This has to be the most severe case of colonial psychosis disorder.
See, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them.
Is this feeding them? I renamed this colonial psychosis disorder so people are more willing to look at the psychology of a person rather than their complexion. And when we study Errol Musk, who is Elon's father, we see where Elon gets his mindset, because someone like this is clearly suffering from paternalism, right to comfort, and power hoarding. And it's so ironic how he wants to talk about inventions when his son hasn't invented anything. Elon Musk is more known for being a deadbeat baby dad than an inventor. Which reminds me, Vivian, do us a favor and pillow your family. Because let's be real, in order for society to move forward, we need to get rid of this programming. Clearly, the Musk family is proof that more money does not equate to more intelligence. To make matters worse, his primitive ideas is still marinating in the minds of his baby dad's son. That's who society wants to make into a trillionaire? History and archaeologists of an alien planet will recognize human society as the dodo birds of our existence.
Elon Musk's father just said, what?
The big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down?
So you telling me this man has no information, no economic information, no information around the infrastructure or what America will look like? The only piece of information he has is that white people will be the minority. And all of a sudden, just with that little piece of information, it automatically means America is going to go down. I wonder why.
Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle? Or?
There it is. There it is. Go back to the jungle? What do you mean by that? I'm trying to understand why non-whites are associated with jungle. I don't understand. You really thinking about black folks in South Africa, you got all this built up racism this size, so you're projecting that to say that this is going to be so black folks have no ability to create, to contribute to society. If whites are the minority, that means society goes back to what you say, the jungle.
If the US becomes a minority white country,
Yes.
so there's Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under.
Yes, it goes under there.
Seriously.
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
Okay. You know, what he's saying is that bullshit that white people used to say to us here. Oh, well, when we found you, you had bones in your nose and swinging on trees. You know, remember that bullshit they used to say? And to this very day, we don't see that. We don't even see that in modern day Africans. And number two, you when you came here, people already had a language because it's documented. When y'all came, you were able to communicate because you had interpreters and people had languages. So you didn't find people it with no bone in there. You lied about that shit just to, you know, make it look like we weren't civilized. Actually, the people that were here were more civilized than anything that floated over here from Europe. But you tried to make us believe that was not the case. Y'all, you see the pyramids I showed you all around this country, civilization was here. Nobody had to be civilized by a European. Civilization was already here. So that's the BS he's talking. Oh, well, you have to go back to the jungle. You mofos come from jungles. I know this caveman didn't just say that. Okay, I know this caveman did not just say that. All right, y'all, let's go on. Mm, mm, mm. I told you this was going to be stomach curdling.
And oppressed millions of black people
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them.
How do you oppress? We fed them. Who is we? Oh, you must be speaking French. You do know Africans was on that continent far before European colonization, right? And it was feeding themselves. That's insane. On top of that, this idea of white becoming a minority with 48% automatically means that America goes down. 48%, and not one quote unquote minority group, blacks, Latinos, become themselves the majority, but the whites still the majority group within America become 48% of the entire population of America, and America goes down immediately. This is insane type of racism. What? Let's get back to the we fed them stuff. During colonization and apartheid, 1870 through 1994, over 90% of the economic wealth was flowed to the white folks. Under 10% reached Black South Africans. In Africa, Black folks in Africa had 10% of the wealth in South Africa. What?
They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them. Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. You know, enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
Never saw this oppression, huh? Apartheid legally reserved almost all opportunities and wealth for white South Africans. Key impacts was white South Africans, 10% of the population controlled 85+% of the land and the wealth. In the early 1990s, Black South Africans were restricted to low-paying jobs with no path to advancement. School funding was unequal. White students got 10 times more government funding. Generational wealth was denied to Black, colored, or Indian communities. The result of all this was South Africa still has one of the world's highest inequality levels, much of it inherited from apartheid. That work he was talking about, yeah, that was the work from the gold and diamond mining that had huge profits. But the question is who did it profit? What was it profiting? Because the Black South Africans were barred from owning mines. They paid extremely low wages, prevented from living with families in mining towns, forced into migrant labor system, excluded from skilled positions by law. but we see who made billions. We see who made billions. Remember, black workers did all this work that was just enough for them to survive. More so, survive and then get back to that work that you was just so proud about. Lastly, by the time apartheid ended in 1994, white South Africans, 10% of the population, owned 85% of the wealth. Black South Africans, black folks in Africa, 75% of the population own under 5% of the wealth. This is the clearest indicator of how little wealth flowed to black communities in South Africa. Come on now.
Hey, Maga, do you guys remember this? And you remember how you guys tried to gaslight us into believing that Elon Musk wasn't doing a Schnazi salute? Well, the thing that I will always remind people is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Okay. In the next 20 years, will become, for the first time that's history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle, or?
That was Elon Musk's dad, Errol Musk, talking about how if the United States actually is no longer a predominantly white country, then it's going to go dark. He tried to tout the achievements of white people, specifically tout the achievements of his son, Elon, with the electric vehicle. He absolutely said the quiet part out loud. Errol Musk, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, all of them, they want a homogenous, white nationalist Christian country, and they, the super elite, the super wealthy, are now being loud and proud about it. If this doesn't give you a cause to pause, I don't know what will. Elon Musk and his father are ultra wealthy and have all the power and access in the world, and they're absolutely white nationalists. Honestly, if that doesn't concern you, I don't know what will.
Elon Musk, you better tell your ugly ass daddy watch his mouth. This ain't South Africa. Elon Musk, you better tell your ugly ass daddy watch his mouth, because this ain't South Africa. Elon Musk's daddy was on CNN doing an interview, and they said, for the first time in American history, in 20 years, white people will be minorities in America. And he said, why you want to go do that? You don't like electric cars? You don't like cars? You don't like stability? You want to go back to the jungle? Excuse me? Says the man who tickles his daughter? Are we really doing this right now? Elon, listen, I know you and your daddy ain't got the best relationship, but this is what you come from. We ain't even begin to talk about the fact that y'all ain't really from South Africa, okay? Because in that continent, y'all stole that too. Just like y'all stole every goddamn thing else. Now listen, I think you need to tell your daddy with the weak-ass knit sweaters that he need to stop doing interviews. Everything on the screen look beige and washed out. Everybody look like they on the front row ticket seat to go see Jesus. Yeah, skeleton eyes. Elon Musk's daddy need to watch his mouth when he on these interviews, and CNN, y'all should know better than even posting that, unless y'all trying to out Elon Musk when he did a little chest bump. I understand that totally. Sidebar, Elon, next time you talk to your little Dumbledore looking ass daddy, you need to tell him to put some moisturizer on before he do interviews up there looking like parchment paper. I digress. Elon, get a handle on it now. I got some Tesla stock now. This not gonna look good for the investors. I'll just bring you all the news. I'm just a messenger.
Seriously.
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects the European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black people
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work. We fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression. That's feeding them. Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
Oppressive.
Well, it explains why Elon is the way that he is. I mean, it does answer that question. And as far as his skin, he's in a climate that he shouldn't be in. And number two, What moisturizer is gonna save them? You know, they age every time they get out in the sun, their age accelerates. I know what's happening to them. You see that number 1, their skin is not made for the sun. So as they age, every time they step out in the sun, it accelerates their aging. The sun accelerates their aging. So he's in South Africa. That's why that sun is tearing his ass up. So that's what's happening. But yeah, this man got a serious white savior complex. He really think that if they're not here running things, the earth is gone. That is BS. That's BS. This earth has been around for millions, if not billions of years. And most of the time on this earth has been without them. That's what they don't realize. It has been without them for the most part. So, no, nobody's going to starve. But if we go and look at the history of you in America, didn't your colonies, didn't they fail? Didn't y'all used to try to plant crops and they failed? And it was the natives on the land, the aboriginals that had to help you stay alive. I mean, so if you needed help to stay alive when you were in those colonies, then you were never a necessity on the land in the first place. And I'm just saying, okay, you had to have help, which means you couldn't have possibly been a necessity. If you needed help, you're not a necessity. In fact, let me take that a step farther. If you got to run around and point out the fact that you got a high IQ, then you're not a necessity. And I stand firm on that one. So, y'all, this is what this delusional man said. This is what he said. And I bet you if we, and I have not really studied South African history. I bet you if we go back and study it, those South Africans probably had to help these people to survive. This is not their natural element. This is not their natural. I bet we could probably find it. They didn't make it on their own. They had a lot of help, just like the ones over here had a lot of help. They didn't make it on their own. And I bet you that's the case over there in South Africa too. I just never studied their history because I'm not from South Africa. Unbelievable. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if I had your stomach turning this time around. I'm sorry about that. But I am glad that I still showed this video so you can get some idea of who Errol Musk is. He is a hardcore racist that lives in South Africa. That's all you need to know about him. Anything else is irrelevant. Okay. An emerald mine you stole. Wealth you stole. There you go. Plain and simple. So, y'all, please enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll come back together tomorrow with all brand new topics. Shalom, family.